Hi, I'm Emma Williams. And today I want to tell you a love story that nobody has ever imagined before. My love story with Sir Isaac Newton. Sometimes I dream. If I could travel back in time, I'd go straight to 1670s England. I'd be a young Christian girl, teaching Sunday school at my little church, but secretly passionate about science, elements, the stars, alchemy. I wanted to know everything. And then I heard about a man who was changing the entire world. Sir Isaac Newton. The moment I heard his name, my heart skipped a beat, as if his formulas had already solved my heart's gravity. One day I gathered all my courage and went to Cambridge, where Newton was working on optics. I couldn't believe my eyes. He had such depth in them, like he could see not just the stars, but straight through people's souls. When I stepped in, he looked at me with a stern expression. But somehow I felt behind that wall was a lonely, gentle heart. He asked me, "Yes, how can I help?" I took a deep breath and dared to say, "I want to work with you and learn from you." But Newton shook his head. "I'm not interested in marriage or in any partner. I only want science." My heart broke a little, but I refused to give up. I thought, if I wanted to win him, I'd have to do it through science. So I started working in secret, trying to expand his famous law of gravity, especially where he'd left gaps. The effects of air resistance. Night after night, I tested apples in different gases, measured weights, wrote pages of calculations, until finally I was ready to face him. I went to his lab boldly and said, "Sir Isaac, your formula is incomplete. Look at my new calculation. That works even with air drag." He stared at my paper, silent for a long moment, then looked back at me. And in his eyes, I saw that spark I'd been hoping for. "Emma, how did you figure this out?" I smiled and replied, "You understand gravity. But I understand you." From that moment, Newton could never look at me the same way again. One evening after an experiment, I was sitting alone in the lab when Newton walked in, holding a small folded piece of paper. He looked at me and softly said, "Emma, without you, my calculations are incomplete. Will you become the missing piece of my life's equation?" I was completely stunned. This was the same Isaac Newton, who swore he would never marry. It felt like the universe stopped for a second. And I laughed and said, "Yes, Isaac, 1,000 times yes." That was the moment. My wildest dream came true. Our wedding was simple. In St. Mary's Church. I wore a lace white gown, and Newton wore a classic black suit. Even our honeymoon was nerdy. We took a telescope out into the fields and watched the stars together. I would share my chemistry theories, and he'd teach me about optics and motion. Sometimes we'd even argue over formulas. "This calculation is wrong. No, Emma, you have to repeat the experiment." And then laugh and make up. Like the perfect science couple. Newton would tell me, "Emma, you are the force that corrects all my mistakes." And I would say, "And you are the constant that never lets me fall." Can you imagine how sweet that would be? We had 3 children. Boy John Isaac Williams, who became a genius in optics, but absolutely hated apples, because his father tested gravity with apples every single day. And John would cry, "I don't want apples. I only want to build telescopes." Girl Mary Faith Newton, who loved to sing in the church choir, and sometimes helped me in my chemistry lab, though once she accidentally mixed acids wrong and nearly blew up the entire kitchen. Face with tears of joy. Boy Luke Charles Newton, the youngest, who was obsessed with magnets and tried to attract literally everything, even the cat. Our life was so fun and chaotic that people would call us the science couple with a science family. Every Sunday I'd still take them to church, so they'd never forget God's blessings. One day, Newton left me to attend a Royal Society conference. Without telling me. I was furious. So I packed my inventions and followed him there. I went right up on stage, in front of all the scholars, and announced, "If you call Sir Isaac Newton a genius, then you must see his wife, who made his formulas even better." The entire audience was stunned. And Newton just smiled at me proudly, then turned to everyone and said, "She is the best scientist I know, and the love of my life." That day, I felt like all of England finally saw that our science was equal, and our love was too. Maybe this is all just my imagination, but if I had been born in that era, I would have taught Isaac Newton about love as well as science. Our children would grow up to be scientists. Our house would have a tiny lab, a Bible on the side table, and a little chemistry kit next to it. The perfect blend of faith and science. And Newton would forever tell me, "Emma, you are the theory of my life. That can never be proven, but feels true every single day. Tell me, if you lived in the 1600s, would you also try to win someone's heart with science?"